This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
What's going on, everyone? Sorry for the late start. Saturday, it's Skol Gang 365. Welcome. So, in Vikings news, we got the OTAs going on. Jordan Addison. What's going on?
What's going on? How you doing?
Pretty good. Talking about OTAs, about how Jordan Addison really likes how JJ McCarthy's coming into his own. What's your takes on that?
I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to what's going on with OTAs, but I think it's a good sign if one of the top two receivers on the team, and right now the one wide receiver, is getting along with the new quarterback. I think it can do nothing but create positive energy and positive connection this early on. So I think that's a great thing to hear.
Yeah, I do too. And then on the flip side, like, the defense is having a blast from what I'm hearing.
That sounds awesome too. I think nothing can be better than seeing another year with Flores and having more of an influence on the players that were drafted, and having a little bit more say on some of the free agents I brought in. I think it's nice to see them pivoting from not really the old regime, but kind of, losing other guys like Kendrick, and I didn't like to see Hunter go, but I think now creating this new cast of characters and kind of the mold of what Flores wants can do nothing but make the team better.
Right. And we really didn't have to go out and spend big buku money either to try to wheel and deal guys to come play here.
I think the shorter term deals is definitely something that is a very good thing because it gives you the opportunity to draft and see what you could possibly have and be able to develop that a little bit slower, and to be able to have guys that are established in those positions that can teach the young guys and also continue to play at their own way too. So I think all of this is what a good progression would be for the team going forward.
Right, I agree, 100%. Because you don't want to give a guy like a monster contract right away. Give him a short-term contract starting off, and then if they do well, then build into that.
Yeah, I think the Vikings in years past have kind of fallen victim to the guys they've drafted, the guys who have played well. I feel like they've given them maybe longer contracts than maybe they should have. It's not saying that they weren't deserving of it, but I feel like if you give somebody too long of a contract, I think you got to prioritize which people you give longer term deals to and what positions they are. Because you could sign a safety to a long-term deal. I love Harrison Smith, but you could sign a safety to a long-term deal, but you could just assume find another safety. The guys that you give long-term contracts to are the people that you consider to be the pillars of the team. To me, They should be at quarterback, tackle, defensive tackle, maybe a corner, maybe a safety, I guess, or a linebacker. But I feel like you only really need 3 to 4 guys that are like that. And I think a rookie on a young contract, that's a good way to start because that's how you have more room to getting other options in free agency or otherwise.
Right, exactly. Not only that, but it's just like I also noticed too, like in the past, it's like we bring in guys from free agency, like Kirk Cousins, for example. Bring him in, like Spielman, 84 million. And it's like, are you kidding me, dude?
Well, I didn't think that was a bad move necessarily, and I think at the age that he was at the time when that happened, I think that was a good time to kind of make a strike and take a chance on it. But inevitably, unless it's bringing in a free agent can go one of 2 ways, and I feel like with a quarterback, I almost feel like it's almost like when they brought in Brett Favre, or when now the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, or the Bucks with Tom Brady. It's like if you already have that proven commodity that's won and like won a Super Bowl or been in those kinds of situations, and that is like the one thing that's keeping you from going forward. I think that's a way of doing that when you've got like a Super Bowl made and ready team. I don't think that the Vikings aren't it right now, but I think they're heading in the right direction when it comes to developing a team that, will go together as a team as opposed to and developing. I mean, the history of the Vikings have not picked a quarterback in the top 10 ever until this year. And I think taking the time to develop JJ, and not only that, but also giving Darnold the chance, I think you've got those things in place, and not only that, but the salary is right, so they're not overblowing on that.
Right. And then it's like the last time we actually had a decent quarterback was Dante Culpepper, and that was a long, long fucking time ago.
20-something years ago, at least, yeah. I mean, and Dante wasn't even a sure thing even when they drafted him. I mean, I'm not saying that he wasn't going to be a first-round pick, but there was no guarantees with that. I mean, Donovan McNabb he was taken like 5th or 6th. I mean, that was the Ricky Williams draft. I mean, there was no real guarantee. He was coming from UCF, which at the time was a young program. And I mean, he had like the frame for it, but you didn't really know. But he ended up being a really good quarterback. I think he had some knee problems though, and kind of got his soul sucked by Warren Sapp on one play where he pretty much broke his face. But that's really in my lifetime, that's really the one quarterback where they've drafted. I guess maybe Bridgewater, but Bridgewater was not. He was a good quarterback, but he was like an ultimate game manager and a great team guy. But I don't know if he had necessarily the body to be able to withstand being like the guy as the quarterback. But Dante definitely did. He's the only one in my lifetime that I've seen cognitively that was that guy. And I'm hoping McCarthy ends up being that. I think he has enough of he's young enough to where he can develop into having a bigger frame, but I think he's got the smarts to be able to do it.
Right. I agree. My favorite thing with Dante was like the scrambling, and then his ability to get out of situations and still get the ball down the field.
Yeah, I mean, he used to be a guy who was even as a runner, like he would run over linebacker. People forget Dante was like 6'4", 6'5", like 260. I mean, he was a tank. He was not easy to get over. I mean, he was their goal line running back. I think when they had like Michael Bennett, I mean, he was like the goal line running back when they had Michael Bennett. So I mean, he definitely had the frame to do it, but I think he maybe did it a little bit too much, and sure enough, that's when Sapp really tuned him up.
My favorite game to this day, I don't remember what year it was, but we played the we played the Saints, and it was down to like the final like seconds, and the score was like really fucking close, and so the Vikings had scored, and so instead of taking the field goal, they
Was
went
that
for
when they went
two.
for two? They went for two.
And
Yeah, nice. I remember that. Yeah,
Dante fucking got it in there. Won the
yeah.
fucking.
No, that was cool. I remember that, and I, I honestly think I don't even know if they were making the playoffs that year or not. But I think he just did it to get the team morale up and just be like, "Yeah, we're gonna forget about this loss. We're just gonna win."
Yeah,
And it was one of the few times at the end of the season when I was like, "All right, we got our franchise quarterback, so get some instill some confidence and let him."
right.
Pull out the win. Most of the time, I frown about it. If we're not in the playoff race, no reason to be winning. Get
Yeah,
as high up
exactly.
as you can. But now that we've got our franchise quarterback, hopefully we will not be in that position again. But if we are, you know, if we got nothing to play for, like maybe develop the confidence once again with McCarthy to do that. Then you get
Right.
JJ signed. Well, that's big.
Yeah, going into getting JJ signed. From what I'm hearing is like CD's still waiting for Jefferson for his signing to even make a move.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same. I think it's the same thing with Ayuk as well.
Yep.
But I think there's a little bit more friction with Ayuk and the 49ers. And I don't know if Ayuk has necessarily put up the same kind of numbers as Lamb and obviously Jefferson. But I mean, I just pull the trigger. I wouldn't wait. Like I get the whole CD wants is my thing, but Jerry will spend money no matter what. Like just don't worry about what other teams are doing. Give Jefferson his money. He's worth more than Lamb to me
Right.
anyways. So get him signed up. Like get it over with. Get to start developing that chemistry for Darnold and with McCarthy. I mean, you want to see what you've got with Jefferson and Addison and for Hawkins. I saw that they signed Robert Tunyon. I mean,
Yeah.
geez, he's like the NFC North. He's like the NFC North
Yeah, he's ran
passing around.
he's ran the gauntlet now, dude. He's like Thanos now.
I mean, I don't mind the signing if he's healthy. I mean, he's
Right.
obviously very familiar with the teams in the division. I mean, I think him signing last year with the Bears was kind of overkill. I know the Packers definitely didn't need him. So, I mean, he's a stopgap until Hawkinson comes back.
Right.
I mean, I think
That's
Oliver's the established blocking tight end. I feel like we could use him a little bit more. But I feel like Tunyon's kind of the stopgap in case things don't go right away for Hawkinson. It's a little bit more of an established option than like a Johnny Munt or Nick Muse.
right, exactly. And also like I can see him like even use them when Hawkinson comes back.
Yeah. I mean, if he can stay on the field and he can start kind of developing a chemistry with Darnold or McCarthy,
Right.
whoever ends up being in there. Yeah, I mean, every option helps. Like, there's no getting around it. I was hoping they'd maybe use Oliver a little bit more because I feel like other than that fumble in the Kansas City game, I mean, he looks like he's got some talent. Like, I mean, I think he's
Right.
more than just a blocker. So I feel
Yeah,
like if maybe with both of them on the field, with him and Hawkinson with him and Hawkinson or him and Tunyon on the field, I feel like you could maybe use those guys together pretty good too.
right. You could actually see like his skills getting uh filmed as we're watching it. Like soon as quarterback got the ball out, he's over there like catching it like Hawkinson, like doing the same thing that Hawkinson's doing. I'm like, damn.
Well, I feel like with Hawkinson last year, I feel like with him not being in camp and not like getting that chemistry right. I mean, it felt like it took him a little while to get the rust off from
Right.
the season before, and with him coming off of injury, I think the more that these guys can stay in camp and spend as much time with the quarterbacks as they can, I think that can do nothing but help the team. And if they're a little nervous about that third wide receiver spot too, under Addison and Jefferson, I think having a good tight end option isn't the worst thing in the world too, especially if you got McCarthy in there. Because I've always said that a solid tight end is a new quarterback's best friend. So
Right, exactly. One thing I'm most excited for this year is going to be the way that they use the running backs this year with Jones and Chandler. I think that's going to be a nice 1-2.
yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, Jones, if he can stay healthy, I think that was the big question mark with him in Green Bay. But when he was healthy, he was money. That Dallas game proved that he's definitely got something left in the tank. He had a decent game against the 49ers too. So I mean, feel like with he's healthy, he can do it. And I think it takes the pressure off of Ty Chandler from being the guy. I feel like they were kind of, I don't know if they were forcing it, but I felt like they just weren't giving him enough of a chance. I felt like they felt obligated because they gave Madison a contract to play him first. And it was, I mean, I think he had one touchdown. I think he had one rushing touchdown the whole year for Madison. And I'm like, that's just not, he's not that. I think he's a great dude, but he couldn't carry the load. Like he was just kind of he was like a Leroy Horde. He just kind of ran into the middle of the field and he had one way, and that's all he did.
I could tell when Dalvin Cook would go down and like say he comes in to fill in for him to have like a great game, and then when his duties aren't needed anymore, Dalvin comes back, they go to him, and then it's just like stuffed. Or
yeah, I mean, when healthy, Dalvin Cook was a Pro Bowl running back. I mean, just asking a guy to try and recreate that, he's not even like the same body type. Right. So to try and ask a guy who doesn't even have the same skill set to, here, just go and do this. I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. So I think that was maybe a little unfair of the Vikings to expect that of him. But I think we're in the NFL now where you need a running back by committee no matter what. I don't care who it is that you got. So I feel like the more depth that you have, the more throughout a season you're not putting tread on the tires of either of the running backs. And when it comes time down to the playoffs or the end of the season when you need to make a push, you want those guys as healthy as possible. So I think having a glut of running backs is perfectly fine with me. I don't think anybody needs to really, and I don't think the Vikings, and with all due respect to Aaron Jones, I don't think any of those backs are considered like a plow horse back, and I don't think any of them really need to be.
Right, exactly. And not to mention, not only would he be a good fit for the running game, but Aaron Jones would be a great addition to the passing game too.
He can teach. I think him being a teacher for Ty Chandler, and some of the reasons why Ty Chandler wasn't playing a lot last year was because of his inability to pick up the blitz. And I think that's one of Aaron Jones's strengths when he was with Green Bay, was he could do that and then create his own, thing in the backfield where he could bounce off of making a block and be a safety net for Rodgers or for Love out of the backfield. So I think having Aaron Jones and that veteran leadership and having him show Ty Chandler the ropes a little bit, I think definitely helps. I don't know if Madison necessarily was like that, because I don't know if Madison was really considered a featured back. So I think that can be, and having Ham too, still having CJ Ham on the team. I mean, you at least now, I think everybody knew when CJ Ham was in there last season that it was a passing down. It was just a dead giveaway because Chandler had a hard time blocking, and Madison had a hard time blocking. So I think having, a little bit more experience when it comes to picking up the blitz is going to definitely help. And I think Darnold being a more mobile quarterback helps too. So
yeah, he's not just going to be standing there like a 2x4 just stiff.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some athletic talent, and I think McCarthy has the exact same thing. So, I mean, these guys are not just going to be like, and just crumble or be like Mullins and be the tough guy, but still get killed and then throw a easy pick six. So,
right,
yeah,
like he'll be able to move around. He'll be able to throw at least, check the ball down. Hopefully.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
like
when you get in those situations,
all he needs to do is be decent. He doesn't need to be good, doesn't need to be bad, just decent.
It's not reinventing the wheel. Just give that quarterback another second, maybe a second and a half more, just to get that second read once the first read's broken down. That's really the only responsibility that you have to keep the play alive.
Right. And then another thing I liked was the re-signing of Dalton Rinzer, bringing him back. And then, we drafted Juergens. We got Blake Brandel.
I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you have Juergens possibly, going into that center position. And then you got Brandel at one of the guard positions, because I don't see fucking Ed Ingram like one of his spot being safe. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of his shit or get off the pot moment now with Ed Ingram. He's got to either figure it out or not. I think Reisner plays well enough and has been in the league long enough and been relatively successful. I mean, he's got his warts too, but I think he's a far more veteran player and has been through it a lot more than Ed Ingram. Ingram, I mean, he's a part of that class. I mean, that class, Quincy's first class. I mean, that was just. I mean, I would have almost rather that they traded their entire draft class away and just gotten a veteran offensive lineman.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Just trade your entire draft that year for Trent Williams. Like, I would have almost rather they did that, because I feel like the majority of that draft class has either been banged up or was reaches. I mean, they had a lot of picks too, and they just kept trading down. They were passing on guys that, I mean, again, Kyle Hamilton. He could be the guy that's up. He could be the guy stepping in for Harrison and letting Harry, bow out gracefully. But now he's playing again. I mean, he wants to play. And he wants to win with the Vikings. But that whole draft class, for the most part, was a biff. I mean, Booth, Scene, Ingram. I mean, a Caleb Evans when he stays healthy, but he's had so many concussion problems. It's kind of hard to get a real feel as to exactly what his skill was, because he can't stay on the field. I know there's a couple other guys later in the draft. I just can't. I'm not. The first half of that draft was so awful that, and I know that you had posted a story about some of these guys, these undrafted guys, and I think, and who can we not see let go? Whether it's McLaughlin, the corner from Arkansas, or Gabe Murphy, the edge rusher from UCLA. I think both of those two are in, and Booth and Scene are out. I mean, exactly. I don't even think that's a question anymore. I mean, I think if they were to, if Scene could have shined or Booth could have shined on special teams, they would have had a little bit better shot, because I think they would have.
Right.
But I think the fact that they were taken in the first and second round, it's almost like, well, we got taken in the first and second round. Why would we need to play special? I think they think that they were better than what they are. And
yeah, and then literally
Booth had
like,
injury.
produced nothing.
No, I mean Booth. I mean, I honestly can't even say one big time play that either of them has made in their career with the Vikings. I really
Yeah.
can't. Oh, it was a really good tackle on a guy that made a 20-yard reception. Like, you kept him from scoring. Like, that shouldn't be your. I mean, I'm not even saying one person or the other, but they've done nothing to
Yep.
warrant their picks. They were busts, and I think they need to move off of those guys right now. I mean, obviously they're not going to give them their player options, but I would just get them out of the room and let somebody. If there's one thing Kwesi has been slightly successful on, is he has undrafted rookie free agents at times, and I think maybe he might have hit the corner and the kid from UCLA. I think they may have hit it out of the park with those guys. Sometimes
Exactly.
maybe the Vikings need less picks and just start recruiting the guys as undrafted guys. It seems like they have better luck with that than the guys that they pick. Although, again, Dallas Turner is probably going to end up being a starter. So I think Flores is going to have has had a lot of influence on the defensive guys and the draft. And I can't say enough about them drafting the kicker from Alabama. I mean, he's really solid. So
Yeah, that dude's a fucking sniper. I've seen like some
he
of
just
his
makes
like, highlights, and I'm just like, damn, he's consistent.
He's just consistent
to what we needed from Greg Joseph. For like with Greg Joseph, it was like he'd be good from deep, but as soon as it came to the extra point, fucking misses an extra point. It's like,
or
come
even
on, dude.
short field goals.
Yep.
He struggled a lot. I mean, he has a great leg, but you know what? Sebastian Janikowski had a great leg too, but he didn't make all the short kicks either. So,
right.
But Rickard was very consistent. He played in a tough conference. He was always in line for the national championship. He made big kicks in big situations. So I think them drafting him was a good move. I think people take that for granted when thinking about their team, because kicking is still a part of the game. So,
especially in those dire situations where the game's on the line.
Yeah, he's been in those pressure situations, playing the SEC. He's been in those situations before. I know the NFL is different, but once you have that mindset of you gotta let it go, you miss a kick, you gotta let it go, and on to the next one, and you gotta have that kind of mentality to be able to be successful as a kicker.
Right, exactly. And like I liked like the Vikings like actually like went out and actually had a good draft. Like I actually was like after this draft I was like, damn, this was actually a good draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Juergens pick. I mean, I do a lot of like those goofy mock draft things. I'm doing it again for the next draft, by the way.
Yeah,
But
me too.
I've already started doing it. But I had Juergens going in the 4th, 5th round most of the time. He was he was up there when it came like top 5 center. So I think having him, and he played. The thing that I like about him is he played his whole college career. Like he didn't come out early. He played the whole thing, and I think you need to have the guys coming out of college with the most experience at positions like center, because they're kind of the quarterback of the offensive line. Like they're the one giving it to the quarterback, and they're the ones that would be having the smarts to be able to call out all the coverages. And I think with Reisner coming back, I think that puts Brando in a really good spot, because I feel like he's kind of like the Swiss Army knife offensive lineman that every team needs. And you're not going to go a whole season more than likely without getting banged up somewhere. And his versatility and also his familiarity with the teammates that he has, I think that does nothing but create create a good chemistry with all of the offensive linemen.
Yeah, our biggest weakness has been that the
Interior
fucking the interior line. It's like
guards,
that
center.
fucking guard center. Like it's just like that fucking area. It's like either always banged up, or it's like we don't have enough, or it's like we don't even have like a good
A
start.
backup. Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes me nervous is Bradbury is starting to have back problems, and if you're having back problems at a center, that is about as big of a kiss of death as you can get. So, going out and getting that center and having it be a guy, like sometimes people like going, well, I got this guy and he was a tackle in college, but we can swing him inside to guard. Like, I think maybe you can get away with it from tackle to guard. But being like, oh yeah, well he played a little center. Like, no. You want a guy who played center, like especially center, like left versus right guard. You can work with that because it's a lot of the same assignments. But if you're the center, you're the quarterback for the O line, and you need to be calling out all the plays. So I want a guy who's played the whole time at center. And I think getting Juergens, and I think people forget. I think Sam Hartman, before he transferred to Notre Dame, I think Sam Hartman was his quarterback at Wake. I think he's from Wake Forest, right? Juergens?
I'd have to. Yeah, Juergens was from Wake Forest, so I'd have to double check
Yeah.
on the Hartman.
But Sam Hartman was his quarterback, and they ran like a really weird offensive system. It was not really a spread offense, but it was like a weird. It was a weird system. So you really had to be a smart guy to be able to call out coverages with their kind of alternative offensive game plan. So I think having a guy like that again was awesome. So
yeah, just right there, you just got your insurance plan in case something does happen to Bradbury. You have that.
Got it in house. And I mean, and I think something that could work really well in Juergens' favor is I would pick the brain of JJ McCarthy. Like I'd make him your best friend on the team. Like get buddied up with him now, get that chemistry with him in particular. Because again, Vikings have never taken a quarterback in the top 10. This is the first time ever. And if you're a guy that's getting drafted the same year as the franchise quarterback, and you know that probably McCarthy won't start, I think getting on those practice fields, getting reps with him does nothing but in the long run work in your favor because you already have that chemistry with him in practice, and he trusts you and you trust him.
Right, exactly. It's like sky's the limit for that. It's like get it while you can, before it's too late.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I think one thing maybe next year I would maybe look into getting a veteran guard just because you want to have, because I think the tackle spot is pretty set.
Yep.
And as much as I do like Dalton Risner, and I don't think he's like that. I don't think he's that premium, 3-time Pro Bowl guard. I don't think he's of that level. I think he's a good stopgap. But I think with all of the money that you're losing with Cousins and with Hunter going forward, I think that gives you the opportunity to go and sign a free agent guard. I mean, I thought it worked out really well when we signed Steve Hutchinson back in the day. So having an anchor like that's been there, like that opens up that option to be able to do it. I thought they were going to do it a couple of years ago with Thuney, but of course Cousins wanted his money, so that's how it is.
And then we end up going out and getting Dan Feeney, so he could be like a nice solid like backup, not a starter, like a rotational guy. Like I know he played with the Bears, played with the Jets.
Well, I think wasn't he taken by the Patriots originally? Dan Feeney? Yeah, I mean, so he has experience with Dante Scarnecchia, who's one of the greatest offensive line coaches in history. So, and he's been with Belichick. So he may not have a whole lot left in the tank, but he is good veteran depth and somebody you can trust a little bit more than Oliudo or
Yeah.
Samia or
so
whoever these
happy.
clowns are that they've thrown in there before.
I was so happy when we finally like cut the deal with Oliuda and he finally fucking rolled off in the sunset.
I mean, I had a lot of hope for Oli, but at a certain point, I mean, he was like a 6th-round pick, like, and he was from like no-name schools. I mean, those guys.
Elon. He's from Elon.
Elon, exactly. It sounds like a type of pen that you would use when you go to college. I've got an Elon 485 pen here, so I'm gonna pass my calculus exam. Not exactly what a school you go to as a football powerhouse, and that's no knock on Elon or on Oliudo, but let's face facts. He was 6th, 7th-round pick. What are you gonna expect? Like, and again, he's coming from Elon. Like, I'd rather take like offensive lineman from like Michigan or an offensive lineman from Alabama, like, and just see. I mean, if they're playing at that position and they came from that school, they probably were a top 5 recruit, a top 5-star recruit, or a 4-star recruit. So they already had talent. And a lot of the guys from some of the other smaller schools, yeah, they may not be getting noticed, but they're huge guys. But on the same token, like, I'd rather have the experience of them coming from a big school. So
right, exactly. And it's like now that we don't have KJ, I feel like it's gonna open up some more opportunity because you got Brandon Powell, Jalen Naylor, and then you got the other guys like who are currently practice squad, most likely gonna get cut. It's like this is your make it or break it time right now. So it's like really work your ass off like fucking Ivan Pace did on the defensive side. And it's like, dude, any one of those guys could really like light it up.
I've wanted Naylor to step up for a couple of years now. And again, I like Brandon Powell as well as a special teams guy and as like a guy that's like a 4th wide receiver or can come in on certain packages on offense. I would like to see them possibly go after like a veteran maybe that gets cut as to be the 3rd wide receiver. Like, I know Houston is loaded with wide receivers, but if like a Robert Woods were to get cut, I would love to see them go after somebody like that, somebody with some experience, some good hands. I can't think off.
Maybe even like Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, his concussion history makes me nervous because he got really racked up last year. And I like Hunter Renfrow, but he got really, really racked up. I mean, how funny would it be if the Jets were to drop Alan Lazard and the Vikings were to sign him? How funny would that be? Another Packers guy.
That'd be fucking insane.
Yeah. Because he got paid that big money, but in the NFL, it's not for long if you can't perform on the field. And they've got Wilson. I mean, they've got some players on the Jets, so that would be funny if that happened. But I would keep for a 3rd wide receiver option. And I mean, I would love if Naylor would step in and just kind of take the bull by the horns. And I mean, I've always thought he's had the potential to do it, but I don't want him to be another Amir Smith-Marset who just kind of is like, "Ooh, yeah, he's great," and then is nothing. So Naylor, this is Naylor's make it or break it time. And if he doesn't, I'd go after a veteran that gets cut. I mean, who cares? Like, bring somebody in.
Right, exactly. Bring in a guy that has already has the skill set of playing that
Yeah, I mean, look at the Kansas City Chiefs now. They've got their problems with Rashee Rice. They go out and draft Xavier Worthy, but then they sign Hollywood Brown. I mean, it's like three of the same guy, but that's just, I mean, Mahomes doesn't need a lot. So
Yeah, that was fucking insane though. I was like, fucking Hollywood Brown.
who are you going to cover speed wise? I mean, you got Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, who just ran the fastest 40 ever, and you've got Rashee Rice, who is, I think he's on the verge of being their number one wide receiver, and he played really well. If he gets his legal stuff in order or just takes some responsibility, they've got a threesome wide receiver that I'd put up against any three. I mean, the Bears want to say that they've got an amazing three. I mean, they look great on paper. You have no idea what's going to happen with them, though.
That's what I've been saying to Bear fans, and this is no knock on Bear fans like Mike and Mike Carrico and some other Bear fans that I know, but a lot of these Bear fans, from what I've seen, are already posting that they're going to be fucking 15-2, and it's like, dude, you haven't seen this fucking team play yet together.
Yeah, I mean,
fuck.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen's nearing the end of his career. He's talented, but he's hurt every year. DJ Moore is their guy. I mean, that definitely is their number one. I think if they can figure out a way to use Kmet more, I feel like they don't use Kmet enough.
Right.
But if they can figure out a way to use him more, especially with Caleb Williams, I think, again, rookie quarterback, tight end's your best friend. I think
Then
they
you bring in they brought in
then Roma Dunze, the kid from Washington. That could be. I honestly think they took Roma Dunze to supplant Keenan Allen after this year. I feel like he's going to be the guy that steps in as the number 2 next year with DJ Moore. And I'm saying like 2 years, not this year, but the year after.
Right, exactly.
So, because Keenan was only a 1-year deal. So it makes sense to have done it. I probably would have taken Oli Fashanu, the tackle, if I would have been the Bears there, but I also would have traded down one spot and taken Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. So then you get that first-round pick. I think they could have easily gotten a first-round pick back again from Washington for next year's draft. So,
right, exactly. I liked their pickup with Gerald Everett, nice veteran tight end. Who has the ability to not necessarily be the guy, but also be there in case say Kmet gets injured, he can fill in. But he's gonna be a nice.
He can sell him. I feel like they don't. I don't feel like they don't. I feel like whoever's had Everett, I feel like they're not using him enough.
Right.
Whoever's had him, whether it's the Chargers or whether it was the Rams. Like, I just don't know if they've ever truly used him enough. Kind of reminds me of Darren Waller a little bit when it comes to how he's bounced around. But maybe he isn't a guy that can just be the number one guy. But he's a solid depth guy.
Yeah, he's a solid number 2 for them. But it's just well, you're saying they need to use Kmet more.
I think they're way overvaluing DeAndre Swift. I think they think that was like this Super Bowl move that, oh my gosh, now we have DeAndre Swift. He's incredible. I mean, if he was incredible, then Detroit would have kept him. And if he was incredible, Philly would have gotten him. I mean, Philly definitely upgraded by getting Saquon Barkley, but Barkley's a guy who's got to stay healthy too. Like, I don't know why Philly didn't use DeAndre Swift more, and I can prove it because I took Swift in fantasy football, and I would just be shaking my head as to why they weren't using, because when they were using him, he was very productive. But for whatever reason, and I don't know if it was a coaching thing or if he was getting banged up, but I would pump the brakes on my DeAndre Swift expectations with Khalil Herbert. I think they let David Montgomery go, and I didn't think that was a good move. I think Montgomery and Herbert, and now with him being kind of the workhorse with Gibbs in Detroit, I think that's the ultimate mistake that happened. Was now he goes to another NFC North team, and he's just kind of sticking it to the Bears because they didn't think that he had it, and that was a kid they drafted. So it's like, oof. So maybe they're thinking they're trying to get back at Detroit and getting Swift. Who knows?
Thank you for tuning in, Yoli. How are you doing tonight?
Hello. What do you got? What else we got going on? Don't talk Timberwolves though.
Oh, dude, no.
Well, at least save that for another day.
Yeah, I just want to go into fucking the off season with basketball already.
Yeah, we don't need to do that yet.
Right.
Let me see. I've been hearing that Kyrie Jackson has been looking pretty solid in training camp as well. Our big corner from Oregon that we picked, who has like the size of a large wide receiver. I've been hearing good things. What do you got on that front?
I think he's gonna do well. I think he, like, with the way the corner room is set up, Byron Murphy, Caleb Evans, and then I think he makes a nice third corner, possibly even like the second. Like, say like Evans doesn't do very well, he could possibly take that second spot.
Well, I also think they can float him because, like, I know how they use Metellus as kind of like a float linebacker. I feel like you could have him and Metellus on the field at the same time, and have Metellus float as a agile linebacker, and then have Kyrie float back into like that safety spot and be that over the top guy when they're having that package and kind of protecting that backside when you're putting a faster guy in Metellus in it, like a float linebacker. And I think you could float back Kyrie to maybe cover the tight end if you got Metellus blitzing. He has the size to do it.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, I mean, he may not have the physicality to cover the tight ends, but he's at least got the height, and he can kind of, and with his corner speed, he can at least just knock the ball down and not give it, just be a really easy catch for the tight end. So,
yeah, I think
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think that'll be something to really like watch and pay attention to in camp.
And don't forget about Blackman, and don't forget about Shaq Griffin too. Like you've got a guy, Blackman. I mean, I didn't necessarily like that pick initially, but he really started proving his worth last year. I mean, he was the number 2 corner, in my opinion. I mean, it was him and Byron Murphy. When Byron Murphy went out, that Najee Thompson stepped up a little bit. When Booth was being Booth, he was in a phone booth. They've been seen in a booth together. They've been seen in a booth together. So, yeah.
All right, everyone. It's 10 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Appreciate everyone that tuned into the podcast. Great show tonight, Colin. We'll be back. We'll be back Saturday for more Vikings football. You guys take care.
We'll be there. See everybody else too. Skol.
Skol.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.